Hey YouTubers, well today we talk about the Packers' big win against the Houston Texans at Lambeau yesterday afternoon in the snow. How about the Randall Cobb Snow Angel? We play as always after the game, love it or leave it. We go over a few of the stats and we talk a lot about the Clay Matthews situation and how the Packers might be able to manage him going forward as he appears to still be playing with fairly significant injuries. Doesn't quite look like himself out there. But basically, if you're a little bit dissatisfied with this win, we put a pretty positive spin on it with the very real realization that this Seattle Seahawks game coming up, even though we know it's going to be incredibly important, is going to be incredibly difficult and a huge challenge for the Packers. But we still had a lot of fun on the show, and I am taking off. I'm headed up to Lambeau with my son and Sherm the creepy caddy. We're headed up to Lambeau to watch this game against the Seahawks, and I can't wait to see that game go down, and hopefully the Packers can get a win. But as of today, we have a lot of fun talking about the Packers' win against the Texans. I hope you'll join us. Good Packer Nation morning. Good Packer Nation Monday morning, guys and dolls. Yeah, it's a victory Monday, and the Packers take down the Texans. Emoji me your feelings as we get on, because I know, and I mentioned before I posted the show, I know some people are a little bit unsatisfied or dissatisfied with this win, but emoji me your feelings for the big Packers win against the Texans at home. They protected the house yesterday afternoon. And as you get on, let me know who you are and where you're coming at me from. We do a little Packer Nation roll call. Virginia is here. First up, Virginia. All right, and about to get a shout out in the Fire Fan Packer Domination League leaderboard. Caesar is here, Dusty, Bryce, and Linda as well. Bryce says a win is a win. I'm glad you said that because that's coming up. We are going to do Love It or Leave It today, as always. Browen is here. Hello, Browen. Stanley and DM back on board. Monica is here as well. Says she is very happy. Well, happy on a Monday. It can't get any better than that, right? It's always good to be happy on a Monday, and it's always a happier Monday when the Packers get a win. We went 1-0. That's all we needed to do. And now, guess what? We need to go 1-0 again. Tough game coming up. Hey there, Todd, Chad, Michelle, Megan, Keegan from Topton, PA. Keegan, I spent a little time in the Ivyland area, and I don't know where Topton is, but if it's anywhere near, that was north side of Philadelphia, basically, Ivyland. So good to see you. Good to have you aboard. Vanessa, Joe, Ann, and Joey. Dusty is here as well. Well, folks, we needed a win. We absolutely needed a win. One of the things I want to say right at the outset of this show, and we talked about this last week, that the Texans are a top 10 defense. They were going to challenge our Packers offense. I think to some extent we thought we were going to walk all over them. Johnny is here. We had a little bit of a struggle. We didn't score any points in the first quarter, right? We didn't score any points in the third quarter. This is a problem. It looked like the same struggles we had been having when we were on the losing streak. But if you look at it a little closer, keep in mind this Texans team, I know Jadeveon Clowney was out. And obviously we know they didn't have any J.J. Watt, but they are a fairly deep group. They're playing well together, and they needed that win. A loss then puts them tied for the top. This is a playoff contending team. They were in desperate need of a win as well. Not quite as desperate as we are, however, but they wanted that win very badly. They wanted to stay atop the AFC South. So I think they took us a little bit by surprise. However, if you look at the scoring, and we'll talk about our predictions, your predictions in a little bit, guys, it ended up being a win. So Chris is here. Sean is here. Maurice is here. Maurice, I got to give Maurice props. Leading the leaderboard in our Fire Fan Domination League. So congrats, Maurice. Well done. I almost got you. I had another strong finish, but we'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, let's do that right now. Here's the top 15 for the Fire Fan Packer Domination leaderboard. We had a fantastic time. That leaderboard was smoking last night. Actually, Maurice ended up second. Peter ended up with like 735 points. Peter Vargas, you better be listening right now because I am the commissioner. I am suspending you for performance-enhancing drugs. I don't know what you did to score that many points. But anyway, Peter at the top, Maurice, JR, myself in fourth with a strong finish, Chad, Jonah, Craig, Sean, Virginia, Phil out there, David, Bill, John, Bryce, and Dustin. Well done, guys. That's our top 15. Had a fantastic time and enjoyed playing the game with you guys. All right, so let's do a little love it or leave it. And this might be a little more lackluster, love it or leave it. Hopefully I'll think of some on the fly because I put down my list, but honestly this morning I had to go out and buy coffee because I've been without coffee for a while, and I had a caffeine headache that I think might have taken me off my game, but let's play love it or leave it. It's our Monday thing. Okay, guys, let's start with bad weather at Lambeau. Love it or leave it. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Because, I mean, I was stoked for it, but to be quite honest, it really hampered our Packer offense yesterday afternoon. Do you not agree? Love it or leave it. You say love it with the heart button, leave it with your angry face if you haven't played the game before. Again, if you say leave it in this game, it doesn't mean you don't like the Packers. You're still a fan. We're laying it out. It's a little therapy on Monday mornings after a game. Love it or leave it. Bad weather at Lambeau, snow at Lambeau Field. I cannot ever say anything but love it for snow in a football game. I think it's the best combination on the planet. My favorite game I ever played, I probably sustained the worst. I wasn't an injury prone until I actually blew out my knee. But I think I broke my thumb because it was like swollen all the way across, but it was my favorite game I ever played, and it was in the snow. All right, love it or leave it, bad weather at Lambeau, okay? Love it or leave it, guys. And I know there's going to be opposing opinions on this. Love it or leave it. A win is a win. A win is a win. Love it or leave it. We put one in the W column. But also we saw some things in the game that maybe concerned you. If you're looking forward, maybe you're a leave it kind of a guy. If you're, or gal, I shouldn't say guy. I think guy is generic anyway. Love it or leave it, a win is a win. Is that how you feel this morning? A lot of people loving that one. That's how I feel. And the reason I can feel that way is because we reset every week. Look at this holiday cup here. Just can't help but be cheery. We reset every week. And I know, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The Seahawks are a different beast altogether. Another top 10 defense, but with a much better offense to deal with. Love it or leave it, a win is a win. All right. I got another controversial one for you right now. Love it or leave it, Clay Matthews. Now, if you watched Clay Matthews play, he does not look like himself. He hasn't for the last 2 games. However, he is out there playing hurt. We know that. And Mike McCarthy in his press conference specifically called out Clay Matthews for being willing to go in as hurt as he is. I think Clay Matthews is more banged up than we know right now. A shoulder injury, again, if you've ever had an AC injury, you will understand. Can you imagine trying to tackle with that? He's running. He seems to be a little flat-footed. He is a little bit slow. He seems to be trailing like everything. But he's out there playing both outside and inside linebacker with those injuries. So love it or leave it, Clay Matthews. You got to give some credit to a guy who's willing to play hurt. But again, the quote I always say from The Rock is, it's not how you play, it's how you play when you're hurt. So love it or leave it, Clay Matthews out there on the field, but not really himself, it seems, in the game. So, all right. I think this one's going to be unanimous. Love it or leave it, Randall Cobb's snow angel after the touchdown catch. I think that one will probably be unanimous, but I just had to throw it in. I thought it was awesome, frankly. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. To me, the Randall Cobb snow angel ranked up there with the squirrel from a few weeks back, and the difference is we got a touchdown and we got a win in this one. It was one of our players, not a furry-tailed creature in the end zone at that time, and he was taking advantage of the situation. Randall said, I just rolled over and slid, and I figured, why not? And here's the deal, guys. I was going to look at the rules today, but I think he could have been called for excessive celebration on that if the snow was a prop. I don't know. I don't know what the fine to, but I've got to give props to the refs, if that's the case, for saying, listen, There is no way I'm throwing a flag on that. It is freaking awesome. This is Lambeau Field. These are Packer fans. This is Packer Nation, where we do these kinds of things. We do quirky, like bring the crowd into it, family-oriented, you have to love it kind of stuff. And I absolutely loved Randall Cobb with the Snow Angel out there on the field. All right, love it or leave it. And here, this one's for my buddy Tom. Love it or leave it, the Packers' chances against the Seahawks in light of the performance against the Texans. Now, there's the one that might put you on the horns of a little bit of a dilemma. Love it or leave it, Packers' chances against the Seahawks in light of their performance against the Houston Texans. You love that? Are you a little bit ticked off? What do you think our chances are based on our performance? It's a little bit evenly split right now on that one. Tyron is saying, don't forget the Lambeau Leap was an accident that turned into something great. And I think you're referring then to the Snow Angel. I'd love to see the Snow Angel become, I mean, I guess I'd take the Lambeau Leap, if you have to choose one or the other, but I'd love to see the Snow Angel become a thing. Tom is saying, oh, brother, I think he might have a leave it on the board in there somewhere. But I see some hearts coming across. And of course, if you guys watched, the Seahawks absolutely stomped. I think the score ended up being 40-7. However, one of the caveats that game, Earl Thomas has a fractured bone in his leg, so he will certainly not be available for the game against the Packers this coming week. So that is one little tidbit of interest that does play a factor in what the Packers. That's gonna make a difference in terms of what matchups the Packers run into. And we will see how the Packers maybe are able to take a little bit of an advantage to that. I have a very specific thing that I think is going to be key to the Packers having a chance against the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a very difficult game. I'm very happy. One of the keys is that this game is going to be at Lambeau. That is one of the keys. I think that's going to be extremely important, but if we can handle time of possession, we're going to have a chance against the Seahawks. That's my little peek at the future. All right, last love it or leave it that I have today, and I guess maybe this is a little bit of a lackluster string of them today, but how about Christine Michael? What do you think about him? He had, early on, had some success, and then they took him off the field for basically, 2.5 quarters, and then we saw him sort of to quote-unquote close out the game. It almost looked like give up plays, and it almost looked like, and he gained very little yardage. He ended up with 9 carries for 19 yards when all was said and done, which isn't a fantastic average by any stretch. About 2 yards there. Love it or leave it, Christine Michael. I looked at it this way. Number one, the thing is, my first question about Christine Michael was, why did he disappear in the first place? Now, I understand what what happened with the Packers is the offense got a spark when they went in there with that 11 package, and it was Ty Montgomery back there, and they stayed with that because they knew they needed to stick to something, to the spark that was sort of igniting the offense at the time, so we didn't see Christine Michael as that much. But then at the end of the game, it was kind of like there was no blocking per se. It just looked lackluster. Frankly, I'd like to see them actually try to get yards with the guy, but it was the end of the game. It was sort of give up time or garbage time. So love it or leave it, Christine Michael. Do you want to see more of this guy? I do, and I think we will. Mike McCarthy made the comment after the game that he wanted to see more of Michael too, but the way that the game worked out, it just didn't work out that way for him because it was really Ty Montgomery that gave the offense a spark out of the backfield. And congrats to Ty Montgomery, who just continues to be a player. I've loved the guy, and I've been in his corner, and I've said to watch this guy as one of the most fluid athletes I've ever seen, and to be that fluid, maybe not quite as nifty as Randall Cobb, but to be a very fluid athlete, but that size that he has and the speed that he has, this is the time at which you would expect teams to have figured out how to deal with Ty Montgomery, but they haven't been able to do it. Number one, they don't know. Look at all the offensive running back sets now with Aaron Ripkowski come out. Can I get a little love for Aaron Ripkowski with another touchdown? And Aaron Rodgers is in Ripkowski's court right now. I am putting Rip on the board, on the leaderboard in FireFan every time he does this kind of thing. And Brown is with me. Who's with me on a little love for Aaron Ripkowski right now? You've got Ripkowski back there. Now, James Starks 4 carries for 1 yard by the time all was said and done. I wanted to see him do nothing but pass protection and maybe catch out of the backfield. I want to see Christine Michael take over as the starting running back, the early down back. I want to see Starks only in passing situations. I want to see Ty Montgomery mixed in, and I want to see more of Ripkowski. If you think about that combination, now just imagine. You are a defensive coordinator, and you have to bone up on all of those formations, all of those options, add to it in your back pocket that you know now that the Packers are not afraid to roll Aaron Rodgers out with an option to run as well. This offensive backfield is becoming a conundrum for defensive coordinators around the league. We have to develop it, and I see a rip or two. Maurice has got one for him. Go ahead right now if you want to, if you feel it right now, and put a rip on the board for Ripkowski, because I got on his bandwagon as the successor to Kuhn that we really needed. We knew we needed a spark plug too. I mean, he's really leading the offense in some regards. You can tell that the offensive line loves blocking for Aaron Ripkowski right now. It's obvious to see. But then that very week that I did that, we got Aaron Rodgers on there saying, I don't know, let's not get too crazy. Well, then he goes and in another game has another short yardage touchdown. And for crying out loud, it's time to roll with this guy. And Aaron Rodgers is the one saying now, this guy continues to deserve to be a bigger part of this offense. He is doing more. He's doing everything we ask and more. Aaron said, I knew his ability to catch out of the backfield, but now he is showing just in the traditional ground game, he can be a factor. I'm loving it. And again, December at Lambeau, how important can that be? How about this? Time of possession, how important can that be? If we can, one of the things we, I think, failed to do, our third downs were not good in a couple quarters. Part of the reason because our first and second downs were not as good. Look at that. And who was running the ball at the time? James Starks. We've got to make a few changes. I want to see Christine Michael continue to develop because he showed me something. He barely got on the field for any carries early in the game, but he showed me something. Tim is saying, pay the man. Well, actually, Amy is putting a coon on the board. Can't resist, right? Some good things happened, but of course we notice one of the things in Circle the Stat that I always talk about is the point distribution per quarter, and I'm not real rigid about that, but one of the things that of course we saw in terms of how our defense played in this game, because again we saw a defense at times that just seemed to be able to get picked apart. However, look at this. First, second quarter, the entire first half of the game, how many points did the Houston Texans put on the board? That is what counts. That is what matters. That is what I am looking at first and foremost. 0 points from Houston in the first half of this game. We allowed that in the third quarter. We allowed 7, and then in the fourth quarter, 6 points. Once again, this banged up defense finding a way to hold the Texans, and I know the Texans aren't an offensive powerhouse, right? And when we get to an offensive now, and I know the Seattle Seahawks are a completely different beast. We are going to have to up our game if we're going to have a chance to do anything of the kind against the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think we will if you're going to predict it. However, if we can continue to play well enough to hold offenses a little bit in check, our offense is going to need to improve. But I think we have a chance. Now, look at this offensive point distribution, right? We got blanked in the first quarter. Were any of you looking at this offensive team and going, oh my goodness, this is not the team we saw last week. This is the team we saw the entire month before last week. We were hoping this changed. We're not sure it did. Well, and then in the second quarter, we got the 7 on the board, but we were blanked again in the third. But then in the fourth quarter, when it really mattered, this offense, now remember last year where the defense was able to get those stands when we really needed them and give our offense a chance to win games when they were not able to score? Now the table has turned. It is our offense that is going to need to get those first downs on those critical series at the ends of halves and at the ends of games to win games, to seal off a win, and the Packers were able to do it. So these are the positives that I see. I mean, you can look at this point distribution, and you can definitely say in black and white, the Packers defense held the Texans to 0 points for an entire half. However, the Packers offense for 2 entire quarters was blanked. We've got some things that we have to fix for sure. Let me make one comment. I want to make one comment about this. Because I put in Love It or Leave It, I put, the bad weather at Lambeau. And Aaron Rodgers made this comment. Some of the offensive stalling that we saw had to do with the fact that the wide receivers were a little bit hampered. You can't make your cuts quite the same. The timing was a little bit off. However, the advantage in bad weather goes to the offense, and Rodgers made this clear. Because the offense knows what patterns they're running. The defense doesn't. So it was a little concerning to me. But if you think about it this way, I think that there's actually a positive in the fact that we played the Texans first in bad weather. And if we have bad weather and snow, which we may very well have, against the Seattle Seahawks, I think that advantage will come into play. For this very reason, those of you who grew up and like me, cut your teeth on driving. Any of you out there cut your teeth on driving in the snow? My birthday's in February. I grew up in West Central Wisconsin. I mean, my first drive home after getting my temps was in 6 inches of snow with snow falling on the ground. But what you need, if you've done this year after year, usually that first day that you drive in the snow, you do something crazy and you're like, oh crap, wait a minute. I forgot. I need to get into snow driving mode. And it takes you maybe that one little where you start to slide a bit and you got to pump the brakes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you say to yourself, and something clicks, you're like, okay, it's winter again. It's time to drive for snow. Well, the same thing I think is going to be true of this Packers offense. The Packers offense got on there and they did enough in this game to win, but they also learned how to run in snow. A lot of these guys, listen, it's been a long time since any of these guys have played in snow at Lambeau, and some of them, the rookies, have never done it. So I think this game against the Texans was fortunate because it'll help us dial in if there's any equipment changes that might need to take place. But mostly the way that they play in the snow is going to change, the way that they plant, making sure you've got your outside foot plant, etc. I think the Texans game before the Seahawks game, if in fact they both end up being similar in terms of weather, I think advantage goes to the Packer in that regard because the Seahawks will have no such advantage coming into Lambeau. So, all right. Let's see. Let's read some. We got Giselle says, hey, Brady and Packer Nation, hello from New Jersey. All right. Well, we got somebody from Pennsylvania on. I drove the New Jersey shore while I was living in Pennsylvania for a summer. So hi there, Giselle. Good to see you. So, yeah, I think the Packers, if you were going to ask me 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't think the Packers stood a chance against the Seahawks. Right now, it would be hard for me to predict a win still. However, by the end of this season or by the end of this week, I am going to be traveling. As of today, I'm getting in a car. I am heading on down to Lambeau or up to Lambeau, however you want to look at it. And I am going to be at this Seahawks game. I'm going to be showing you guys. We'll be sort of showing you glimpses of the trip. But by the time this game rolls around, I think I'm going to be ready for this Packers team to continue. We've got to take it up a notch. Is anybody with me with a thumbs up that we have to take it up a notch if we want to have a chance against the Seahawks team? Russell Wilson is a much different quarterback. The Seahawks running game is a much different running game. Jimmy Graham is a much different tight end, and we struggled against the tight ends. But this Seahawks team, the last time we played them at Lambeau, we were able to take them down. It seems like the Seahawks, my son Jonah was commenting on this, like they always have something go their way that is just crazy every time we play them. I think we need to keep that at a minimum, but I think if we continue to improve, we've got to play a better offensive game. Frankly, we've got to play a better defensive game, but I think we can possibly get it done against the Seahawks. We will see what happens come next Sunday. However, let's make a little bit of a comment. Do I have any love out there? And I'm gonna mention this because they don't get much love. And especially this season, they haven't gotten much love. Is there any love out there for the Packers special teams in this game? I got to tell you, Randall Cobb gave the return game a shot in the arm. We saw Shum with another couple good punts, one of which was very close to forcing the Texans back on their own, like 1 or 2, ended up being a touchback. But we are seeing the advantage of this type of punting that Jacob Shum brings to the table, and we want to see that continue. We were able to flip field position. We did it a couple ways. We did it with special teams. We also did it with a long offensive drive when we got pinned back. And the coverage units, how about Jaron Elliott with the big open field tackle in coverage? This special teams unit needs to continue to improve, but they need to continue to keep doing what they're doing. We're going to need them, especially against a team like the Seattle Seahawks that can be very dangerous in special teams. So yeah, I've got a lot of love this morning for the Packers special teams. We needed that improvement. We've been down on them, really, to be honest, most of this season because they were not playing well. And finally, they had a good game, which means to me, we played well enough in 3 phases. We didn't play the 4 quarters that we've been talking about all year, but we played well enough in 3 phases, and we got the win. So I think, key to the game against the Seahawks coming up is playing 4 quarters of football in all 3 phases. I think if we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble. I've got Nick on here. Anybody else out there? You can see the comment. Anybody else out there got a little love for the Jeff Janis play, the little end around play, kind of a surprise. I think Jeff Janis may have scored a touchdown in good weather on that. He had to take the corner slow to avoid slipping, but with Jeff Janis' speed, it was good to see him have something good happen to Jeff Janis, to be honest. Because I'm in the guy's corner, but he just, everything seemed to go wrong when he had his opportunities. He didn't seem to be able to cash in on them. Yesterday, he did cash in on the one opportunity he got. It was good to see. And again, that adds another element that defensive coordinators are going to have to prepare their teams for. And that becomes a problem, becomes a real problem. All right, let's see what I have for offense. The scoring situation was a little bit interesting. You saw him stall out a little bit too much. Again, and Aaron Rodgers mentioned it, our third downs were not quite as good. I don't remember what the percentage was. And obviously, we know this team made a few mistakes. Listen, the biggest mistake, let me ask you this. Would you, if you're down on the Packers' chances against the Seahawks, does it make any difference? I mean, we won 21-13. We held the Texans to 13 points. If the Packers, we walked down. It was a 3rd and 1 on the 2-yard line. Not only could the Packers score a touchdown with 2 yards, but they could still get a first down and have 4 more plays to get a touchdown. 28-13. We are right back up where that game against the Eagles was. And so if the fumble that Aaron Rodgers had is something that's easily correctable. It happened partly because of bad weather, I'm sure, the noise, et cetera, but that's something that can be corrected, and that was 7 points on the board, guaranteed. So the picture changes a little bit if we're right up there at that 30-point mark, and again, we held the Texans. We're sort of putting a string together where we're able to hold teams to less and less points. So if we can I'm expecting the Seahawks to score more, but if we can keep them a little bit under wraps and our offense can take a step forward and eliminate mistakes like that, I think we're going to have a chance, folks. All right, with that said, I want to circle the stat. We want to talk about the stat line a little bit. Let's start with Brock Osweiler because, again, there were times at which he looked like he was picking the defense apart, but Brock Osweiler ended up with 22 of 35 for 202 yards. He did have the 2 touchdowns, one of which was a combination of a push-off and a nice pass and a nice catch, okay? But he didn't have any interceptions in this game. That's the one thing Brock Osweiler was leading the league. But remember, Osweiler is coming off a horrible performance the week before. He knew he had to play a pristine game for his team to even have a chance against the Packers. And you got to give a little bit of credit. The guy, he's a tall guy. He's got advantages that Russell Wilson, when he comes in, are not going to have. So again, you got to give him a little bit of credit, but his stats were not fantastic. Now, Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, didn't have a huge amount of yards with only 209 yards, very similar to Brock Osweiler. 20 of 30, he only 10 incomplete passes, and he had the 2 touchdowns as well. And the Packers were able to do it because, again, I would sacrifice, Aaron Rodgers having 3 touchdowns in a game for Aaron Rodgers having 2 and us seeing our ground game as a capable means of getting in the end zone, because that, again, makes our red zone offense that much more multiple, which is going to be extremely important down the road. We have to have a running game, and we have to force defenses to respect it if we want to have a chance. All right. How about Aaron Ripkowski? I've got him starred. 3 rushes for 14 yards, 1 touchdown, and a long of 10 in this game. Really with a nice game. This guy is a fullback, and very few fullbacks really contribute much. Most of them, teams that still use them, they're in there for blocking and lead blocking. We didn't see as much of that because, frankly, we're seeing Aaron Ripkowski develop as a runner in and of himself and develop his own identity out there. We do have the comment, just be glad, Cobb. Yeah, we mentioned that at the beginning of the show. Our run game needs to be better in order to control the clock. Alex is making a nice point there. And that is part of the reason where I think I wasn't impressed. I was impressed with aspects of our run game. I wasn't impressed with the way our run game worked in the entire game as a whole. And part of that I know is the way that the defense is working against us. They were basically daring Aaron Rodgers to pass at some times. However, I think we need to be able to pound the rock for 1 or 2 yards, especially on first down. We ought to be able to get that 3 or 4 every single time. That puts us in great position to make, for second down then can be anything. I think, we've got enough wide receivers. We've got Ty Montgomery out there. We've got this multiple sort of committee of running backs back there. Right now, we've got a running back by committee. But it's not the typical, when you say running back by committee, what that usually means is 2 guys that split time. Well, we've had this lately with Lacey and Starks. We had this goofy, it wasn't even the typical running back by committee where we'd run one guy and when he got tired, he'd go out, the other guy would go in. It was like we'd run one guy for a quarter and then we'd just arbitrarily take him out. We'd run the other guy for a quarter and then we'd arbitrarily swap. Now we have this running back by committee that includes so many different styles of running. Different positions. We've got basically, Ty Montgomery is a wide receiver, but he's big enough and he's physical enough to play the running back position, and he loves it. He's having fun back there. We've got him. Now we've got Aaron Ripkowski, the bruising fullback that becomes a real part of a running offense. That is not typical across the league. And add to that, of course, James Starks, who is the veteran. Again, I don't think he's playing that well. I'd really prefer, because of his knowledge of the offense, to see him move into a more of a third down back role. We know that he's going to be out there on the field, and I would love to see Christine Michael right now, and I do think it's key. Number 1, for our game against the Seahawks, and number 2, for our chances down the stretch for Christine Michael to become a bell cow back. Maybe bell cow back is the wrong term to use because we are going to have such a multiple of running backs that we use. But he is going to need to be a solid rushing back in our backfield. The traditional guy, the guy that can sort of do it all as a traditional running back. He can go up the gut. He can take the A gap. He can do outside zone if you need him to do outside zone because he's got some speed. He can do pitch outs. He can do the draw play once the passing game gets going. We're going to need him to begin to get some identity the way Aaron Ripkowski did by taking advantage of his reps. And I think he took a step forward, even though he didn't get as many reps as we would have liked, I would have liked, and Coach McCarthy said he would have liked. I think he took a step forward yesterday afternoon. So, all right. Well, I don't want to make this show go too long. I think tomorrow we'll talk more about the stats from the Texans game because I think some of them, well, let's talk defensively. How about Julius Peppers with the big sack right before the half? A big, deep sack running down. We saw Brock Osweiler get the best of Julius on one rushing play where he got just out of reach of Julius, ended up running for like 20 yards in that play. And Jonah commented, it's tough to get out of Julius Peppers' reach because the guy is so long, but he was able to do that. We only had the couple of sacks in this game, but I got to take a moment before we close the show. Guys, how about Dean Lowry getting out there and getting a sack? I mean, that that blew my mind. I was so happy for this guy. We're going to need him as well because that depth on the D-line, we're going to need that rotation moving forward. And I was very happy. And if we have any love, put up a heart for Dean Lowry for getting his first NFL sack. Gets it as a rookie. I love to see that kind of stuff. You just love to see a guy who, in the snow at Lambeau, the crowd is raging and roaring, and he gets out there, gets after it. I mean, the running back completely whiffed on him, but that running back was not going to slow Dean Lowry down at that point anyway. He smelled blood in the water. He closed, and he made no mistake. He wrapped up, and he just drove him to the ground, made sure his arms weren't even up. He couldn't get rid of the ball. He was still in the pocket. It was a fantastic play, I thought, by Dean Lowry, and I love to see that kind of stuff. And it amps up the entire team when these young guys start to contribute. I think that's going to be important moving forward. Shane Colby says, love it or leave it, the Lowry sack. Well, love it or leave it, I usually try to say stuff, and I didn't do that much of it this week, but I like to say stuff that's a little bit up in the air. The Lowry sack is an absolute love it, absolutely. So great comment. Ryan played well, too. Jonathan's making a great point. And I agree. And I have said for weeks now, for 2 weeks, since Ryan hasn't been able to play, he's the most important guy to get back. Well, of course, he went out, and I do think his health is still in question. However, one of the things we did is buy ourselves another week. He had to go out for a while. He was back for a little bit. I'm not sure what the situation is. Frankly, I don't think he's healthy. I mean, I'm sure he's not healthy. I'm sure he's not 100%. I don't know where he's at. But if that guy can continue to just improve and be able to play each week without hurting his ankle worse, he is going to be an important factor for us. He goes in there, he should have had 2 sacks in the first one. He just got a little overexcited and didn't play it patient and ended up whiffing on the sack. But Jake Ryan with a great play in this game. Love the way he's playing, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I had failed to do so, and Jake Ryan deserves props in this game. We need him moving forward because once again, and frankly, I think Clay Matthews is playing better inside than he is outside, but we know we need both of those guys healthy. And we need Jake Ryan on the inside, and we need Clay Matthews on the outside. And think about this, folks. We may get Blake Martinez back this coming week. That could be another shot in the arm for a defense that has just been struggling to be able to fill each of the positional roles with somebody. To get a warm body on the field out there has been a test for this Dom Capers defense. And again, they did enough to hold the Texans to 13 points. If we can take a step forward personnel-wise, we have that much better of a chance taking a step forward in terms of our chances against the Seattle Seahawks. And Jonathan's saying Rawls can be dangerous. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're running full speed ahead into a team that looks like it could absolutely destroy the Packers if you look at it on paper. I mean, if you look at matchups, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is playing great, but you put him against Russell Wilson, and it's not a huge amount of a trade-off, especially when you have an Aaron Rodgers who is hampered by a hamstring injury right now. Then you look at, I would give our offensive line a nod to them. But in terms of tight end play, you got Jimmy Graham, who's been a superstar. He's going to be a great player, but now we can balance that a little bit with Jared Cook, who again had another couple nice receptions in this game. Is dangerous, can stretch the field, but look at what Jimmy Graham did last night. Dangerous tight end, and we on defense struggle with tight ends. But you look at the defense on the other hand, you look at the way, Clay Matthews is not really a threat for sacks or pressures the way he plays right now. And I honestly, I think that's mostly due to the injury, to be honest. I don't think it has anything because when he's healthy, I think he's, a beast still. He's not healthy. And to me, I'm relating that in the way Davante Adams has been treated. Davante Adams was hurt all last year. Everybody jumped off his bandwagon, was pissed off at him. Oh, get the cuss off our team. Let's have Janis play in his place. Let's have Aberderis play in his place. Well, then he got healthy, and look what happened. Now, none of those people that jumped off his bandwagon are saying anything right now. Well, you watch and you mark my words. The same thing is true of Clay Matthews. If he can get healthy, and again, his health has been a concern. If he can get healthy, You're going to see him make the difference. I've been saying it all along. When he is on the field and healthy, I didn't make that caveat at the time because I thought he was going to come back healthy. He didn't come back healthy. He just came back and played the best he could. If he can get healthy, this defense changes dramatically. You mark my words, it will happen. However, that is in question at this point. Because I just don't know at this point. It's tough at this point in the season. You can't take any games off. So guys just have to get in there and play. And I'm not sure with both the injuries that Matthews is dealing with if he will be able to get healthy at this point. So if he can't get healthy, he's going to have to play better hurt, is my read on Clay Matthews. And Gary, I agree with you. I know a lot of people out there. I've been one too. And I sat there and I said, you watch Clay play, and he is not playing well. But then you think about it and you're like, have you ever seen Clay play this way before? If he's healthy, he never plays the way he's playing right now. You can tell. You can see it in the way he runs. You can see it in the way he doesn't close on plays, the way it's a hamstring and a shoulder. You got your hamstring, you can hardly close without pulling it again or possibly tearing it. How are you going to tackle if you've ever had an AC injury, I'm speaking from experience, how would you even tackle? He's basically running on pain medication right now. And that's why Mike McCarthy got up there and gave him huge props for getting out there and playing. All right, well, folks, that is about going to be it for me today. I mean, there's all kinds of things we could still talk about. I mean, I love the way Ty Montgomery played. Of course, we talked about Ripkowski in this game. We saw a little glimpse of what Kristen Michael could do in the future. And there are a lot of things we can talk about, I'm sure, that we didn't like. But I wanted this show to be positive. I know a lot of you woke up this morning and you're like, you know what? A win is a win. I know we have a huge challenge with the Seattle Seahawks coming in here. This is going to be a challenge that not only is this a good team, but this is a team that knows to play even better in the playoffs. Watch out, Green Bay. If we don't improve on a lot of things, we are going to struggle against this team. And Maurice we were talking about Clay Matthews, and this is the thing. He's asking, maybe we could take a week off. The problem is we can't. The only opportunity I see for that, because Clay Matthews can't take a week off against the Seattle Seahawks. There is one way in which I see it. The game against the Bears is one of those games that I think, like maybe Clay Matthews, if he tweaks it again, but he helps us get a win, we might have a chance down the stretch where he's just not able to go, but he does get that sort of post-game and a week off and another week stretch to get healthy. And that is the only opportunity I see at this point. Because again, you look at the stretch, the Vikings, there's no way we can take a week off against the Vikings. And of course, the game at Detroit at the end of the season, there's no way we can rest a guy like Clay Matthews. We're going to need him, just like McCarthy says. You have to put your best players on the field. The opportunity against the Bears is a little bit intriguing to me, and I think it might be a possibility. This week, however, that's not going to do us any good, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens going forward. Hopefully the training staff can get him in real good shape for the game against Seattle. And hopefully, again, here's the thing. If you watched him play and you thought he played a little slow, a little flat-footed, he trailed stuff, he didn't close on tackles, if he was doing that to protect himself and he came out of the game at the same point that he went into it, he didn't exacerbate the injury in any regard, that basically means he has a full week to get healthy. So he has another full week. If he could have stayed at the same level, he's got another full week to get healthy, and I think he will be in better shape, and I predict he will play better in the game against the Seattle Seahawks. So that's my hope. Of course, we're going to need him down the road. And Johnny is saying, we've always played well versus the Seahawks in close games. Predict the Packers with a Hail Mary. Bold prediction on a Monday morning. I am liking it, Johnny. Here's the thing. I would say, yes, we have always played well. It seems like we find a way to lose is the problem I have. And it's always some goofy, crappy thing. Like the Fail Mary, the refs, or the botched onside kick with Brandon Bostic, or something goofy like that. Now, that said, our last meeting against the Seahawks, we got it done. So I hope we can maintain that. We would like to go into this game with that kind of confidence and come out with a win. It's going to be really, really exciting. The atmosphere is going to be electric. I cannot wait. Folks, I am hitting the road today. I hope you will follow along. I am going to be doing, they may be a little bit random. I'll try to give you some heads up. I'm going to be doing some posts. Myself, my oldest, and Clay, Sherm the Creepy Caddy are taking a trip up to Lambeau from Tennessee. We're going to be making some pit stops on the way. We're going to be dragging Sherm the Creepy Caddy in to have breakfast with us, hopefully, and we might get kicked out of restaurants. I don't know what's going to happen. Sherm is wearing his Packer tie, so I hope if we go into a restaurant in Wisconsin, they will let him have breakfast with us. We're going to have a blast. I'm going to give you some a live show at the game, hopefully. Our pregame show that we usually do. We're going to be hopefully, I've got to finish up making the final arrangements, and I know this is going to be mirrored, but if these walls could talk, we're going to be hopefully talking to Wayne Larrivee still about his new book coming out. Get him on the show. Let him talk to you guys about this book, about his book, If Walls Could Talk, book about the Green Bay Packers that I am really loving right now and enjoying, and it's going to make a great Christmas gift for some of you. But let's let Wayne sell that book to you on Thursday of this coming week, and I just can't wait to get on the road, if you can tell. So I hope you all will be with me as we go. We're looking for hopefully a nice, safe journey. We've got to, there's not a lot of weather to worry about from here until you get up into Indiana, perhaps, and then there might be some things going on. It's going to be interstate all the way. We're expecting smooth sailing all the way to a big-time matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to try to keep you up along the way. Folks, if you haven't already got in, I mentioned at the beginning of our Monday shows, our Fire Fan League. Fire Fan is the name of the game. You can download it from the App Store, your respective App Store, either Apple or Android. It's called Fire Fan, and you get in with the promo code. When it asks you for the promo code, it is Get the Ring, all one word. You can jump in. Our league is called Packer Domination. It is growing all the time. Folks, it's we're in beta right now, okay? So you need to understand that. If you want to play, you're welcome to. You're going to be able to, they're going to throw free tokens at you. It's free basically to play right now, or at least to get started. And it will get you hooked. This game is a blast. Our leaderboard grew to 35 plus. But let me tell you something. By the time this thing kicks off in full form in our league, playing for our trophy, the ring, the Precious, when they kick off, we're probably looking at more like 300. So if you jump on now, you can play a little bit for free. You can tool around. You can get your feet under you, and you can have a chance to win the Precious and make it to the top of that leaderboard. It is going to be highly competitive. I am loving the folks that have got on. It's great to see all the people get on there and play. We chat back and forth in game. Once you get used to it, it doesn't affect your watching the Packers at all. And I saw Virginia, if you're still on, I saw you playing another game. We played another game at night and had a little fun with that. That wasn't even a Packer game. And it made the game a whole lot. It was the Seahawks game, of course, the late night game. And it made the game a lot more fun. So I will let you go with that. If you aren't in Fire Fan, please jump in and look up use the promo code Get the Ring and look up my Packer Domination League. And we will hope to see you there. So, all right, I will call it a day, folks. It's Monday. I will be on the road, so it's going to be a little up in the air. I'm going to try to have the show at the same pack time, same pack place as we always do. I can't, however, guarantee it because we're driving through the night. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. The way it works out, by this time tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, I am hoping to be in the heartland, in God's country, in Wisconsin, coming at you live from Wisconsin. So I hope to see you there. You guys have a great Monday. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Pack.